I'm applying the stages of change to fasting, and I think it might help you to determine where you're at in the process. Fasting is a really powerful healing process. If you try to leap forward before you're ready, you're not going to have a good experience, and then it's liable to actually do some damage rather than making you feel better about yourself and having the healing effects that we're looking for. Hey, it's Dr. Gala. I'm a licensed acupuncturist, naturopath, and author, and it is Fast Well Week here in my world. I'm going to share with you some of my insights about fasting, particularly fasting for wellness and doing it well. I'm applying the stages of change to fasting, and I think it might help you to determine where you're at in the process. You need to go easy on yourself. You'll know when the time is right for you. First of all, I want to caution you that if you have a diagnosed medical condition or are on prescription medications, especially those medications that are to be taken with meals, you will need to speak with your prescribing physician to get some help working through this process, because your medications most likely will need to be adjusted during and or after the fasting period. Fasting is a really powerful healing process, and we primarily are focused on fasting for cellular repair, autophagy, so that healing process and eliminating the spike in insulin that accompanies eating is going to require that your medications be considered. Let's talk about the stages of change. There is actually a stage of change called pre-contemplation, but I don't really count that, because if you're in pre-contemplation, you're really not even thinking about making a change. So let's just skip that one and go straight to contemplation. We've got contemplation, planning, preparation, action, and maintenance. In the contemplation phase, we're thinking about fasting. We maybe have been introduced to it, or maybe we've got some sort of health situation that we'd really like to do something about, but we're not quite sure what to do. Well, if fasting has come into your world today through me, or probably multiple people if you're watching this video, just know that you can stay in the contemplation phase until you feel ready to move to the next phase. This stages of change really needs to be honored. If you try to leap forward before you're ready, you're not going to have a good experience, and then it's liable to actually do some damage rather than making you feel better about yourself and having the healing effects that we're looking for. So contemplation, then we're going to move into planning and preparation when we're ready. And this is really the most important stage of change, and the change that most people spend the least amount of time on. In this stage, we're thinking about what we're going to do leading up to the fast. We're thinking about what we are anticipating might happen during the fast and how we're going to adjust for that. We're thinking about what we're going to do immediately after the fast so that we get the full effects of the hard work and effort that we put in. This planning and preparation stage is what's going to set you up to have a really good experience, have a lot of success in a really fairly short period of time. Then we're going to go into action. Action is where we actually execute our plan. For those of us who are planners, we know that the plans never go as planned. Hopefully in planning and preparation, we've done a little bit of contingency planning as well. We've got maybe even a plan B that we can fall back on. But if you've got your plan there and you're following it, just know that stuff happens and it's okay, and you're just going to keep going and do the best you can, and you're going to learn from it, and next time you will be better prepared. I consider the 1 to 3 days after the fast as really part of the fast, because it's incredibly important what we repopulate our digestive tract with. So that should have been all part of your plan. And as we move into maintenance, this is the stage where we're considering what sort of fasting are we going to do on an ongoing basis. Are we going to follow a time-restricted eating plan? Are we going to actually do intermittent fasting? Intermittent fasting, from my perspective, really requires that we limit our eating window to a maximum of 8 hours. hours. If you're not restricting your eating window to a maximum of 8 hours, then you're really just doing time-restricted eating, and that can be beneficial, but you're not going to have the same healing effects that you would have if you restrict your eating window to 8 hours or less. It can be helpful to cycle your intermittent fasting so that you don't practice the same fast or fasting window every single day. You can put some thought into that based on the schedule that you normally have in your world. What days are anticipated to be a little easier to restrict your eating window? So as we go into maintenance phase, then we will start to, over the long term, understand what kind of benefits we've gotten out of the fasting period. In Fast Well Week, we typically lead up to the fast with 1 to 2 days of a very limited eating window and actual things that we're eating. Do 2 solid days of full fasting. I do modify the fast a little bit because for those of us with adrenal fatigue, it can be too much on our systems and cause too much internal stress to go full bore into water fast for several days. That's something to remember, that the fast needs to be appropriate to your body and what your body can handle. If you've done it for a while, you may be able to adopt a full water fast for 3 days. We just don't practice that here. We do very light intake for a couple of days. It's the equivalent of fast. We remain in autophagy, and then we come out of the fast with 1 or 2 days of a similar eating program that we had before we went into the fast. So Fast Well Week really requires some advanced planning and preparation and requires us to take a different approach. We're not fasting for weight loss, although you might experience that. We're fasting for wellness. Wellness is best facilitated with autophagy, and autophagy is going to really help our bodies, support our bodies in the rest and repair process. That's another thing to keep in mind when you're fasting. You want to stay busy, because when we're not busy, we tend to think about food too much. But I also notice that when I'm really busy, I've been conditioned over the years to think that I have to refuel at certain points in order to be able to keep up that busy life, which really is not true. I've proven it to myself over and over. But it's important that we stay busy, but not too physically active. Your body will not be functioning at a level where we want to push it too hard. We're wanting to allow our body to rest and repair as much as possible. So what kind of busy things could you tackle maybe that don't require a lot of heavy lifting? That's heavy lifting on any plane, mental, physical, emotional. Speaking of emotions, you may find that you have some insight and epiphany. It's a great time to do more journaling and meditation. You may not want to tackle any heavy emotional processing during this period, but you may get some insight that you did not previously have that will be able to be put on the table when you come out of this fasting period. So one last reminder, the post-fasting period is as important or even more important than the fasting period. Once we've allowed our digestive system to do that rest and repair, it basically had a reboot, had a reset. So whatever we put into our digestive system for those first few days is reestablishing our whole gut flora and the microbiome. If you do anything right, make sure you do the post-fast right. That's the hardest part, because we want to reward ourselves after we have done such a great job and restricted ourselves for several days. So keep up the good work. If you're interested in future Fast Well weeks, just leave a comment below this video somewhere and we'll reach out to you and let you know how you can be notified.